Good day, everyone. We are Group 38. My name is Exequiel Manalo and my partner is Nathaniel Cajuday. In this video, we'll walk you through our implementation for the Student Counseling Data Management System. And for my part, I'm focusing on the session superclass and its three subclasses, mainly the guidance session, mental health session, and career session. I'll explain where initialization happens, the attributes that are private versus public, and also briefly discuss each attribute and method so we can see exactly on how the pieces fit together. Now, starting off with the session superclass. This class is basically the foundation for all counseling sessions in the system. So the initialized part is the constructor method named double underscore init. In Python, we write that as double underscore init followed by another double underscore, which runs when we create or instantiate a session object. Now, in the constructor, we set 5 private attributes, and we can recognize private attributes similarly with how we wrote the double underscores before the init part. So first we have the session ID, which is a unique identifier for the session. Then we have the session schedule, which holds a schedule slot object and contains the date and time window. Then we have the student, which is the student object of the counselee. And we have the counselor, which is a counselor object assigned to the session. And we also have here, last is the session notes, which basically starts as none, meaning there are no notes yet at the moment of creation. Now, when we say private, again, we intend that these values to be encapsulated inside the superclass session. And our methods are basically public, so other parts of the program can call them. Now, for the first method, we have the update session details, which lets us edit the core session details later, like switching to a new schedule, assigning a different counselor, and as you may have noticed the pattern, it accepts optional values only and only updates the fields that are provided. That way, we can change just one thing without touching the rest. Now for the second method here, which is the get session details, this allows us to return a dictionary containing everything about the session, like the session ID, schedule object, student object, and the counselor object, and as well as the session notes. Returning a dictionary makes it easy to log, display, or test what's inside the session. So again, this session superclass gives us the common building blocks and the two public methods, which one is to update the session basics and one is to return those details cleanly. Now let's extend the session with the guidance session subclass. Now this is for guidance related concerns as we see in the handout. This includes like academic or social issues. And the first thing to notice is that we call the superclass constructor in here, which set the base field session ID, schedule, student, and counselor. And after that, we initialize the attributes specific to guidance counseling. And all of these are private, again signaled by double underscores. We have the guidance area, which is a string that describes the focus. For example, we have academic planning, course selection, scholarship inquiry, social adjustment, or conflict resolution. Then we have the academic concerns, which is a list of academic issues such as study skills or time management. We also have the social concerns, which involves list of common social issues that a student might be facing, like peer relationships or campus integration. Then we have the is resolved, which is a boolean, which true means the concern has been resolved, otherwise not. Then for the follow-up needed, this is another boolean, which also means that if it's true, then we should schedule a follow-up. Then for the session notes, this is specific to the guidance session, which later on we're going to further discuss. Now next, the subclass, the guidance session subclass, also defines its own update session details. It first calls the superclass updater to handle the schedule, student, and counselor. Then it updates the guidance specific fields, but only if the values are provided. And that includes the guidance area, the academic and social concerns list, the booleans for resolved and follow-up, and also the notes. Now to get the session details here, this starts by calling the superclasses get session details to get the common fields, and then it adds the guidance specific information. One subtle but important point is it overrides the session notes in the return dictionary so that you see the subclasses current notes value. And finally, there are straightforward getters and updaters for each private attribute. So for getters, we have get guidance area, get academic concerns, get social concerns, get is resolved, and get is follow-up needed. Then for the updates, we have the updating of the guidance area, the academic concerns, the social concerns, the update for which if it's resolved or not, and if a follow-up is needed. Now, these support fine-grained changes, while the bulk update method supports bigger edits in one call. Um, just to give an example, we might start with the academic planning and academic concerns of study skills and time management. But if the plan shifts to course selection, then we can either update the guidance area here alone or pass multiple changes at once through update session details, which is over here. Now let's move forward to the mental health session subclass. Now for the mental health session subclass, again, we still observe the proper format wherein we have included inside the parentheses the superclass session. And this specific subclass specializes session for mental health concern. Again, we call the super in it, which basically means to initialize the common fields and then we set the private and then the mental health specific attributes. Now we have the chief complaint, which is the main issue reported by the student, which includes possible values like anxiety, depression, stress, grief, or relationship issues. Then we also have the symptom severity, which is an integer for us to identify the severity rating, and the code casts it to an integer to be safe. Then we also have the therapeutic approach used, which when the approach applied, for example, we have CBT or mindfulness. Then we have the interventions, which is a list of techniques used, such as breathing exercises or cognitive restructuring. Then we have the treatment plan, which is basically the planned next steps. Now for the mental health update method, this mirrors the structure that we've already seen. We have the optional parameters, the update only if provided, like if chief complaint is not none, then that is when we are going to do an update for that specific attribute or parameter. And then we will reuse the superclass updater for the schedule, the student, and the counselor. Now for the getter, this composes a dictionary which also includes the mental health fields along with the base session details. Like for example, if we want to present session notes in this subclass, we can either keep using the base class's session notes or the value of it, or manage a mental health specific notes value the same way the guidance and the career subclasses later on that I'm going to show you. Now, the important idea here is basically the consistency on either how are we relying on the base notes or override them, like in the subclass return value, just like in guidance session. So again, we have here the other methods, like get chief complaint, which returns the chief complaint of the student, the symptom severity, returning the level of severity of the symptoms, with 1 being the lowest and 10 the highest. Then we have the therapeutic approach used, which returns the method or the therapeutic approach that was used during the mental health session. Then we have the list of interventions identified by the counselor, the treatment plan, and then the rest we have the updates if there were any developments coming from the mental health session that was done with the students, between the students and the counselor. Now let's move forward to the career session. Now for the last subclass under the session superclass, we have the career session, which extends the session superclass for students who need career guidance. Now this class is designed to capture career-related details like goals, assessments, and the skill gaps. Now, in the initializer or constructor, we first call the superclass constructor with super.init. So the session ID, schedule, student, and counselor are still set up. And then after that, we define the career-specific private attributes, each marked with double underscores because these are all private. Then we have the career goal, which basically describes what the student is aiming for, such as internship search, or job search strategy, career change exploration, or graduate school planning. Then we have the assessment administered, which has a possible values of Myers-Briggs or strong interest inventory. Then we have the industry focus, which career field or industry the student is exploring. For example, in the field of IT, industry of healthcare, or probably in the education world. Then we have the skill gaps, which is a list of skills that the student still needs to work on. For example, if they may need more practice in coding, if they're into IT industry, communication, or leadership. If nothing is given, this starts as an empty list. Now, we also have the notes from the counselor that basically summarizes the key points of the career discussion. Now, down here below, we have the update session details method, which allows us to edit any of these fields. It first calls the superclass update method to handle the schedule, and then the student or the counselor changes. Then if we pass in the new values for career goal, assessment, industry focus, skill gaps, or the session notes, it updates basically all of these. And this makes the method flexible. We can update everything at once or just one specific attribute. Now, in the get session details, basically this return the details of the counseling session. In the, well, this basically returns a dictionary of all the details for the session and starts by getting the common fields from the superclass, and then it adds the session notes specific to the career session, the career goal, assessment administered, industry focus, and the skill gaps. This way, we print the session details and we get both the shared attributes and the career specific information in basically one neat package. Now, for the getter methods, each of these returns the value of one private attribute. These are get career goal, the get assessment administered, get industry focus, and get skill gaps, which return the list of identified skill gaps of the student. Now, by using getters, we basically respect encapsulation and we don't directly access the private variables from outside this class, just to reiterate. Then now for all the methods that include update, this is smaller in a sense and targeted setters for each fields, which includes updating the career goal, which if there's any change in the career goal from the initial um, career session. Then we have the assessment administered, which update the assessment use, update the student's chosen field or industry, and we also have update skill gaps to replace the list of skills that needs improvement. These methods give us control to adjust specific attribute without needing to touch the others. So as an example, if a student originally had the goal internship search with a skill gap in public speaking, the goal is later to update the career goal to graduate school planning and expand the skill gaps list to include research writing as well. And using all these methods, keep the changes clean and controlled. So that's all for the session superclass and all its subclasses.
And so, hello guys. I'm Nathaniel Cajuday, and I'm the fa- uh, I'm the uh, I'm the partner of Exequiel Manalo, and I am discussing about the counselor module. So I am sorry for having a groggy voice. I'm really not that feeling well since Sunday night, I guess. So yeah, so this module defines the counselor-based class and its three subclasses. So we will talk about the guidance counselor, the mental health counselor, and the career counselor. So for the guidance counselor, uh, we can talk about uh, for these three subclasses, we can talk about their specialties, no, on whether or what uh, is the needed type of counselor is needed for that uh, counseling schedule or session. So this is the counselor superclass, and in this part, the class counselor, it represents the counselor and the student counseling data management system, and we have their counselor ID, their name, their email address, their mobile number, their license number, and their list of schedule. Now, so we will now okay, so for these parameters, this is for in case there is a need for changing an information for let's say the name, the email address, the mobile number, and schedule. So we can update their details in case there is a need. So let's go to the first subclass. It's about the guidance counselor. So it represents a guidance counselor inheriting from counselor. So its attributes are academic specialties, student support programs, and disciplinary liaison, which these attributes talk about the list of academic areas like their study skills, their programs like peer mentoring, and their Boolean flag for disciplinary duties, respectively. So in this part, this is string, we can check or we can also update if about their academic specialties, about their support programs that they are having and their disciplinary liaison flag. Okay, so for this subclass naman, the mental health counselor, this represents a mental health counselor inheriting from counselor. So these attributes are only two. These are about the specialization and therapeutic approaches, which are uh, talking about the clinical specializations, for instance, anxiety disorders, and their approaches respectively. So again, in this part, we can check, we can update, or we can set uh, the specialization of our um, uh, mental health counselor. We can check their therapeutic approaches, and even uh, the two of them. Okay, so for our third subclass, it's about career counselor. So it represents a career counselor inheriting from counselor.py file also. So these have three attributes: the industry expertise, the career assessment tools, and the alumni network connections. Of course, these attributes talk about their expertise, like are they financial advisors, are they life coaches, are they motivators, motivational speakers, over what, and their tools. Okay, so this should be an academic tools and professional tools, and not just words, and not just beautiful sentences, no. And of course, we can check their connections, no. uh, their connections for me are help these counselors to establish their names, their professions, no. So in this one, we can check this, their expertise, the tools that they are using, and even their connections. So we can update, we can set, and we can return, or we can check on whatever um, is needed, no. So these three subclasses for the counselor module help us determine which counselor uh what type of counselor is really needed um for this counseling session, no. And it will really help us to uh determine the right and the proper counselor, no. So that's all. Thank you again. I'm so sorry for I'm buffing. I'm really not feeling well, and I'm also under the influence of medicine. So shout out to my partner. Thank you for helping me, and thank you for giving effort for this activity. So yeah, thank you everyone.